I don't usually talk about movies I despise, and today will be no different. I love this movie. What's up with all the hella good movies that start with the letter H? Heretic, Hereditary, Hell, Jason Goes to. A quick word of warning before watching this. Watch the movie before watching this video. There may be some spoilers. I don't know. Don't hold me liable like the Bible. I'm just putting my thoughts on the wall for you. Honestly, when I first heard Heretic, my mind went straight to that Simpsons episode, Homer the Heretic. Watch it now on Disney+. This movie starts off as a slow burn. It picks up halfway through, but you're never bored. It's dialogue heavy and exactly the kind of film I love. I compare it to 12 Angry Men. That kind of storytelling where everything builds through conversation and tension. King of the Hill did an episode in the same vein. Fun fact, I watched the 12 Angry Men remake in middle school and I was blown away. Of course, I had to play it cool, you know, middle school. Everyone's a gangster. If it ain't Scarface, you're not allowed to like it. Turns out, William Friedkin directed that Angry Men remake. Mr. Exorcist neck twist pea soup spray mist himself. But I digress. I don't mind a slow build as long as the payoff is worth it. And here, it most definitely is. So enough preamble. What's Heretic about? Well, as if you didn't already know, Heretic is a 2024 American horror film written and directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods. It stars Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East as two Mormon missionaries who try to convert a man, played by Hugh Grant, who turns out to be way more dangerous than he seems. Okay, Sophie Thatcher though. I could have sworn she was related to another celebrity. For some reason, every time I seen her on screen, I kept thinking Thora Birch. Turns out I was wrong. I'll admit it, but come on, tell me you don't see it. Okay, maybe I'm Dawson with the reach on that one. It's definitely no Bryce Dallas Howard, Jessica Chastain situation. I'll give you that. So what are the critics saying? Rotten Tomatoes describes Heretic like this. Hugh Grant has infectious fun playing against type in Heretic, a religious horror that preaches the gospel of cerebral chills over cheap shocks. Okay, refry here. I think it does reach shock territory towards the end, almost to Barbarian levels, but not quite as bonkers. The audience gives it a score of fresh out the fridge. They say, as the titular heretic, Hugh Grant and his theological musings are as irresistible as blueberry pie, even if the story's payoff doesn't quite reach its biblically good setup. And that's a sentiment I've heard by one or two other reviewers. Heretic didn't sound like the name of a movie that would pull me in, to be honest with you. So I watched a few other videos before, and I couldn't even finish the reviews based on what they were talking about. It sounded really intriguing, and I just wanted to go in more blind than what I already knew. But personally, I thought the ending was great. It leaves you questioning what you just witnessed. Well, at least the last 5 minutes or so. At first, I thought it was a nice happy ending for at least one of our girls. A miracle was witnessed. I truly didn't see that coming. I wanted to cry tears of joy. Then, when that butterfly glitched out, oh, what a gut punch. I had flashbacks to 2021's Censor. That movie's ending lacked the ambiguity we're afforded here, though. It either happened a certain way or it didn't. It's left up to your own interpretation. I like to believe the happier of the two, as every horror movie needs a final girl. And I think Sister Paxton made a very formidable final girl. When we first meet Paxton, she's bright-eyed, curious, and fully immersed in her faith, having been born into it. She's on a mission, literally. But there's just one problem. She's terrible at converting people. She's never really questioned her own beliefs. How can she confidently counter someone else's doubts when she's never had to wrestle with any of her own? This is the core of her story arc. And then there's Sister Barnes. She's sharp, she's perceptive, and she clocks Mr. Reed's little mind games almost immediately. You can tell by her wide-eyed, deer-in-the-headlights facial expression she has for the duration of the couch scene. No, not that kind of couch scene. And what's more?
What could be what's more?
Is that Sister Barnes has got 8 or 9 converts under her belt. No, that's not why she needs the birth control. But why is she so good at converting others? Well, Maybe it's because she wasn't born into the church. She's asked herself these tough questions, wrestled with doubt, and come out on the other side with answers that make sense to her. This gives her the confidence to guide skeptics to her religion. Or maybe, if you're a little bit more cynical like I am, you think she's just really good at saying whatever she needs to get the job done. After all, she is a bit more worldly. She uses birth control, which becomes a plot point. And the way they frame her visually, maybe it's a case of you see what you want to see. Maybe it's a case of my caveman brain, but she has an air of sultriness to her. Let's talk about that for a second. The actress playing Sister Barnes, Sophie Thatcher, is usually blonde, but in this movie, they give her darker hair, darker clothing when compared to Sister Paxton. This is classic cinematic shorthand for something a little more morally ambiguous. And sure enough, she's not a true believer. Or is she? Which brings us to that twist. I did not see Sister Barnes getting killed off halfway through. But looking back, it makes total sense. In a story about faith and doubt, she was the outlier. It was subtle, but the signs were there. She was the one most at odds with the belief system around her, which, in horror movie logic, pretty much stamped an expiration date on her forehead. And that's what makes Sister Paxton's journey all the more interesting, because by the end, no matter how you interpret the events of the movie, her arc is fully realized. I'm the target audience, and it feels nice. In a world where Hollywood is constantly talking down to us, here's a movie that preaches a message, arguing both sides, and lets us decide. I've always been interested in religion and different belief systems, questioning everything I've ever been told. I've read the Bible, well, to an extent. You know, for the good book, it's a very dry read. I've read Religion for Dummies and A Case for Christ. I think that's what it was called. Some researcher in it argued DNA had to be created by a higher being. I was a higher being when reading that stuff, you know what I'm saying? You ever been a higher being reading Revelations? You'll scare yourself stupid. I've watched videos about different belief systems, just trying to better understand the why of it all. I could see myself in Mr. Reed's from that aspect. One of the questions Reed brings up is one I guess I just assumed was doctrine in the Mormon religion. He asks how the girls feel about polygamy. Paxton answers that it's not for her. As ignorant as it sounds, I didn't know it was a choice, and I'm just being real with you. So this movie taught me a thing or two, and it asked questions I wouldn't dare to ask. See, I'm of the belief that people should just mind their own business when it comes to other people's personal lives. But the girls do answer that polygamy was only seen as okay while trying to increase numbers within the church. And if that's her argument, I'll accept it at face value. Who am I to challenge your truths? But then Reed counters that answer with his own interpretation, being that John established that rule initially to justify his own infidelities. And these are retorts my unopposing brain would never think to bring up. That's where I differ from Mr. Reed. Although I am curious towards the ample examples of religions out there, I would never try to talk someone out of their religion. Like the song goes, if it makes you happy, it can't be that bad. Besides, people that do that, these are the people that are like, you like Taylor Swift? You like Nickelback? Nickelback sucks. You know what? No, they actually don't. Think for yourself. Back to the movie. At first, the missionaries think they're there to convert someone, but Mr. Reed flips the script. He knows way too much about their faith. For a moment, they think this is going to be a cakewalk. Then he starts asking questions he already knows the answer to. And suddenly, it's not a conversion, it's a battle of wits. Two girls caught off guard against some loaded questions in an increasingly tumultuous environment. Reed had the whole interaction premeditated down to the timing of the lights cutting out. He was slowly building fear, putting Paxton and Barnes' faith to the test. I loved watching the girls try to counter his arguments. They had some solid points, but it was clear Reed had them exactly where he wanted them. And when you're blindsided like that, your brain stops working properly. Like when I leave my car at the mechanics for a day or two, I'm putting the remote in the fridge. I'm mistaking dog food for cereal. And unfortunately, that's where these girls are. Stuck in this house, completely thrown off their game. And I think it's fair to ask, why did they go in the first place if they didn't see the man's wife?
What?
Well, think about it. These girls see so much rejection. We seen it as they walked through the town, and Paxton was eager to make a conversion. She wasn't about to let this potential convert slip out of her hands by questioning his claim about his wife baking in the kitchen. I think every decision they made was pretty reasonable. This wasn't just your schlocky, campy, what are you doing types of movies. This one, I think, really stuck the landing and keeping it based in reality and what choices a real human being would make. I love how they incorporated the religious comparisons and pop culture. One thing that really hooked me was how the movie used real historical and pop cultural references to ground its arguments. Reed brings up the idea that multiple religions have a resurrected figure with 12 followers, a fascinating point. I wondered, how would deeply devoted believers counter that? Thatcher's character makes a funny counter. She says there's plenty of differences that he's leaving out. One of them even has a bird head. But I wanted more detail on how they actually differ. It's a minor complaint, but then at that point, it would become a TED Talk. And then there's the Monopoly analogy. Reed compares Christianity, Islam, and Judaism to the landlord's game, the precursor to Monopoly. I truly never knew of this game, and so this was a fresh take, for my ears at least. The movie even name dropped South Park and the Book of Mormon musical. These little touches made it feel real. The self-awareness these girls had about themselves really humanized them. I appreciated that. And as for the musical references, I had no clue that The Air That I Breathe by the Hollies inspired Creep by Radiohead, which in turn inspired Get Free by Lana Del Rey. Hey, Lana Del Rey's a great artist. Her first 4 albums go hard in the paint. But unfortunately, I had never heard Get Free. But it was a fresh take for me, and it's something I could really get behind as far as this movie goes. And another aspect of this movie was the house. The house was a character in of itself. It's brilliantly designed. Outside, it looks normal, cozy, rural. Inside, the deeper you go, the darker it gets. I have these reoccurring nightmares in real life. I have these reoccurring nightmares about being trapped in a house or being trapped in rooms that are labyrinths. Every time I try to get out, I just can't. I get more and more stuck. This was long before backrooms was a thing. There's something just so terrifying about being trapped. There's a moment in A Cure for Wellness that really nails this. The scene in that steam room. It's pure psychological mind torture. And Heretic does this just as well. The deeper the girls go into Reed's study, the more claustrophobic it gets. Then there's the model house Reed is carving, perfectly mirroring the real house and its intricacies. And there's one shot when Paxton's running up the stairs from the basement, the camera zooms out and we see her in the maze of the model. Then it pans over to her escaping through the basement door. That's the money shot. The movie kind of spells it out for you with the poster Reed has of Dante's Inferno, which once I seen that, I was like, oh, okay, I know what they're doing here. Pretty clever. But again, going back to this movie was made for me, I didn't piece that together. Sometimes I do need allegories spoon-fed to me. I'll admit it, I'm not that smart. I'm not that bright. I've heard creepypasta stories about houses like this, where doors disappear, hallways shift, and people get trapped for decades. If anyone remembers that story from Let's Read, let me know. Let's Read, it's a YouTube channel. Dude tells some scary stories, very relaxing. But if you know this story, let me know. I need to find it again. There's something so nightmarish and claustrophobic about it all that sucks you in. And the fact that these innocent young girls are subjected to the torture of it all is enough to upset even the most stern of hearts. Trust me, I'm the first person to say, well, that's what you get. But when it's happening to the most meek of people, you can't help but break. Religion and horror are like piñatas and sticks. They complement each other so well. I'm always fascinated when movies tackle faith and doubt. Mr. Reed makes a point throughout the movie to say how all religions are derivative of each other. So I asked, is Heretic, like the religion aspect it's arguing, just a rehash of an older film? Is God's Not Dead just a Hallmark movie version of Heretic? While watching this, I did think of God's Not Dead. They're the same, but different, you know? Heretic is a psychological horror. God's Not Dead is a faith-based drama. One makes you question faith, the other affirms it. I actually enjoyed God's Not Dead. Sure, it was heavy-handed, but the debate between that kid and Hercules at the end, it was entertaining as hell. No pun intended. Of course, it painted all the non-believers as villains, which, yeah, a little too on the nose. Back to the religious horror movies though. There's The Exorcist. It's a film that makes you question everything. Friedkin once said, if you enter as a non-believer, you leave with a stronger sense of whatever you already believe. And The Exorcism of Emily Rose, it takes a scientific approach. Was it possession or something explainable? These are movies based on true events, and they leave you wondering about the veracity of the claims being made in their respective films. I think that's what makes a great ending. My final thoughts. Heretic is a slow burn, at least up to the middle point. But if you love movies that challenge ideas and build tension through dialogue, it's worth your time. It left me questioning everything. That's exactly what I love in a film. If you've seen it, let me know what you think. Was that ending satisfying? Did you see the Thor Birch resemblance, or is it just me? And most importantly, does anyone remember that lost creepypasta about the endless house? Like and subscribe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you had a channel, I'd do it for you. All right, that's all I got for now. I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace out.